After Bitcoin broke all-time highs last week, it's been going mostly sideways and slightly down as it builds momentum. With nations, states within the United States, and even nation states looking to add Bitcoin on their books, and institutions also buying Bitcoin at record levels, most want to know how long before Bitcoin blasts back up again. We'll take a look at the price action to see what clues we can gather. We'll also take a look at altcoins and see what is happening there. We have some time today for suggestions by you for us to look at. It's going to be a fun episode. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realize there's potential here for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for those discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place. Now, I was once new to the crypto space 8 years ago, and I didn't know at the time that you grow a huge YouTube channel by talking about things that were already high in price and being optimistic for why they'd grow higher. And so I didn't realize for a full first year that incentives were all wrong for most crypto YouTube. I was hungry for analysis on cryptos that were underpriced and undervalued, and I didn't really find that. So in 2020, I created that. Here we discuss crypto as an investment and discuss the most important things like investment cycles, projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risks of those projects, and the guesses at upside if it comes together well. So if you're looking for deeper discussions than that, join our private Patreon group, which allows you access to the Rainmaker private Discord. In the Rainmaker private Discord, this is where the very best discussion and best info is. There are other benefits too, but you will have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul, who is joining us from DevvExchange today, is an investor in many different markets. None of this should be taken as financial advice. So if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show. Help me welcome Paul from DevvExchange. Paul, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. And sometimes the market needs a bit of a rest, doesn't it? Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's like things have just got too volatile and we need a bit of time to reflect. But there's definitely an air of people still being very negative about where the market is and that feeling that we're at a top and it's all going to go wrong. Politically, there's still quite a lot that's in the headlines. But I think the economic data over the next few weeks and months is going to be quite instructive as to where the markets are going to go next.
Yes. Now, a good friend of mine, Randy, and I yesterday were discussing on the channel, a lot of people are saying this cycle, there's not really going to be an altcoin run. It's just going to be Bitcoin because that's where the major institutions are going. And that's picked up a lot of traction in people in crypto that are, 1 to 4 years old in crypto. How are you seeing when you look at the greater landscape? Do you think there's merit to that altcoins won't have an altcoin season this run?
I mean, one of the things about the markets is you never say never, but it just seems extremely unlikely that would happen. There's too many things that are, in terms of the macro situation, still bubbling up, and I'm laughing not because it's not bad, because it has been bad in the altcoin space. It has been difficult, but you just see a parallel in so many different other markets. So, for example, the gold silver ratio, in the same way gold could be Bitcoin, silver could be Ethereum, and lots of people were talking about gold underperforming silver and gold outperformed silver. In exactly the same way, they're now saying silver's never going to break out. It's all gold, gold, gold. That's all people want. Literally in the last 2 weeks, silver started to break out. I even mentioned it last week. It was a throwaway sort of comment, but there was a lot that was behind why I was saying that. And I've also mentioned Ethereum sort of basing out and moving up probably about 3 weeks or a month ago, that there were signs that things are shifting. So again, it is possible. Is it probable though? No, I don't think it is. I think this next phase is most likely to involve Trump who's even kind of annoying Elon Musk with his spending, he's not going to listen to anyone. He's just going to go flat out and just make as much money as he damn well can for him, for the American people, as he sees it. Whether he's doing it for right or wrong reasons, we don't need to get into the politics. We just know that you can trust him to be a champion of business and to do everything that makes businesses sort of operate at their sort of optimal levels and more. So the whole tariff situation is a bit of a sideshow. And I've kind of said it before. I think that it will settle into nothing, and it will look back in a year's time and it'll be, oh yeah, remember the tariffs. But the market's already sort of looking beyond that. So I think it is unlikely that will happen. It is possible, but it's unlikely. And the reason why I think that is because the underpinning of the markets hasn't got into an acceleration phase. Sentiment isn't there yet either. And it's kind of typical that just when people throw in the towel on a view, that's when things start to turn. And there are already signs that Ethereum's turning, and it could be the first one that turns with everything else. And that's not to mention that there have been a few markets that we've looked at over the past few weeks that have showed signs of life, signs of turning around. And some of those moves have been quite extensive and quite powerful in a very short space of time. So it doesn't take much for sentiment to change, and I think it's still on. I think it's still a big possibility, and one that we should be readying up for.
It's funny how so many people miss the moves, right? I remember you talking about how gold was going up and silver hadn't yet, and that there was this narrative that silver wasn't going to catch up ever. And then all of a sudden it popped. I remember about 3 and 4 months ago seeing all these videos on why ETH was never going to recover in the Bitcoin ETH price. It was never going to catch up, and it was pretty much dead, and it was all downhill from here. And then ETH went up a ton in the past 3 weeks. And so it actually heartens me when I hear people making the argument that altcoins are dead. There's not going to be an altcoin season 2025. No altcoin run at all. It's just Bitcoin only, and maybe a few large cap altcoins. But all the small caps, they're never going to have a run. It's like, oh, good. I would be very concerned if everyone was saying altcoins were going to go crazy. So I'm hearing what I need to hear, which is like a bunch of people getting it wrong.
Yeah,
I would start to get concerned if everyone believed there was going to be an altcoin run.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree with that. If everyone was really bullish, and it's also, what is the argument for there being no altcoin run? Because there hasn't been an altcoin run. Sure, there is an argument that when things underperform, they continue to underperform. We've kind of looked at that. But
that's really why. But they throw in extra facts like, oh my gosh, in 2021 there was only 40,000 altcoins, and now there's 2 billion altcoins, because like anybody can create a cryptocurrency project that's technically considered an altcoin. So because there's so much crap out there, nothing's going to run is the extension of their argument. And I forget what some of the other points were, but essentially it comes down to what you just summarized. Because it hasn't run yet, it's probably not going to run.
Yeah, and that's not really much of an argument. It is. I mean, it's saying it's underperforming, which is fair. That is fair, and it's fair to say that you've got to look for the signs that things are turning. Well, I think so anyway, and that's why I look at technicals. You start to see things moving, but as I said before, you can't blanket say that nothing's moving, because things are moving, and there have been some fairly aggressive altcoin moves, and it depends where you look. It's just it hasn't been a rampant all tides being lifted at the same, the tide lifting all boats, as it were. There's a few coins that are still in the woods, and maybe seeing some chinks of light here and there, but they're still working their way through, and we'll see what happens. But the underlying, and as we're going to see in the charts, there's more and more things that are coming into synchronize into this bull market from external factors that, again, I can't guarantee that these things are going to happen, but would suggest that a a very strong move is upon us. And we have to also remember that the market's taken on a pretty major shock with the tariffs, with those tariff moves. I mean, that was like a big shakeup, a huge volatile period that the market just bounced back from. But let's not forget that the reverberations will continue for a little bit of time. And I think when it happened, I think I said that I thought things would go sideways and consolidate and then go up in about a month or so. And actually what's happened is the market bounced. It was a buying opportunity. And the macro position was consistent, but what's happened is the market's bounced and then consolidated for a bit, which is, again, it's fine. It needed to consolidate at some point because it's such a big event. So I think we need to see more evidence that the macro situation has completely turned. And even just cursorily looking at the fear and greed index for Bitcoin, I mean, that's neutral now. Neutral is 106,000. I mean, that's quite amazing, really.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the metrics you're looking at. I'm going to bring up the screen that you can
Sure.
show whatever chart you want to look at.
Yeah. Well, first off, I think data points to look out for. Friday is non-farm payrolls day. What are we going to see there? Perhaps we're going to see a weaker number because it's going to be reflected in maybe what was going on with the tariffs. Maybe it's had time to have an effect. I'm not sure, but that could be a weaker number. Equity markets still looking good. This looks like it wants to go higher. The Dow, the S&P as well, that's squeezing up. That's looking good. The Nasdaq not far off all-time highs. This is not a bear market. This is a bull market. So okay, again, anything can happen, but that trend is up and it's continuing up. I just don't see that. I see the underpinnings as being good. VIX index, always good idea to have a look at that. Yes, it's been riding up these lows, which is an inverse of when this goes up, it's bad for the stock market. It's bad for the S&P. It's just a volatility measure on the option prices for the S&P. So when this goes up, it means that the cost of buying protection in the S&P and options goes up, and it has been on an upward trend. But generally speaking, it's not maintained any sort of spike level, and it's coming back into some fairly neutral points. So, if that breaks down to 14 again, that would be a really good sign for a move, some solid moves in the second half of this year. So that's all looking okay. Equity markets in Europe, we can just jump through them because they're all looking good. The equity markets in Hong Kong, in Asia, in China as well. So China is consolidating but getting ready to break out. Hong Kong is the same. That's all looking good. Gold, risk on trade, still going up. It's consolidated for a bit. We talked about that. Needed to go sideways. And it's getting ready to go again. Silver, it's everyone's saying it's not going to move. Look what it's doing. It's tapping on this major high. I think that's going to just break out. I think that will be, trading at 36 and beyond by next week. And then we got platinum, which has done nothing for ages, suddenly spikes up. It's done it before and it's fallen back. But, that looks like it's moving. Maybe even palladium. But palladium, you can see, has done nothing. So when that moves, it will be a big synchronization. So the point of looking at these markets, you might think, well, what's that got to do with cryptocurrencies? Is these are risk on commodity trades. It means that the market is expecting more demand for commodities, which means there's more money flowing into the system. And gold and silver have been moving, but the fact that platinum is now potentially moving, it's still early signs, and it may come back again. But I think given how much it's being stretched on the spreads against the other markets, this could be ready to go. Then you've got the base metals. Of course, the most important is copper. This copper one, we talk about it virtually every week. I got very excited up here, and tariffs smacked it down, but then they went, that's a great opportunity to buy, and it's gone back up again. So bigger picture, that looks like it's going to trade higher. And elsewhere, we had we talked about yields, and yields are now looking like they're getting ready to fall. So I would suggest that data is going to be weak, we've got a week on Wednesday, the 11th of June, we're going to get US CPI numbers. And I just wonder if that's going to be weaker than expected. There's been a lot of panic in the markets about US yields going up, which had gone up very aggressively, people pulling money out of the US because of Trump, inverted commas. Definitely the Japanese yields were looking like they were going up, but they're a different situation. It was just like this upward yield pressure, indicating maybe there was a lot of selling of the US dollar going on, which I think there is. And it looks like that's going to continue. But the fact that yields are coming down and also oil is coming down is two other factors that again pointing potentially. So this is the oil market. As this goes down, it is good for everybody. So, there's so many things that are, as far as I can see, are pointing to a more bullish outlook. And finally, we'll finish off with the US dollar. It's had its rebound over 100. We said it might do that on the way down. Broke the 100 level, rebounded, took all the stops out, and then it's been sold again. And I just think this has got so much room to accelerate lower. It won't do it in a straight line. It will work. I think it will work its way lower. I don't know 100% for sure, but I think it will work its way lower. And that will support equities being at a new all-time high, Bitcoin, and altcoins will then start to potentially look very cheap, and people will start to pick those up, and we'll be looking out for signs that that's actually happening. So there's a lot that I can see that seems to be positive. Now, again, I'll keep saying it. I could be wrong, just because I'm saying it doesn't mean it's going to 100% happen, but the probabilities look good from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, a lot of times when people get into any kinds of investing when they're new, they want some kind of guaranteed return. And
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a lot like playing blackjack, where you're trying to stack the odds in your favor. Now, what I don't like about blackjack is really that house has the odds stacked in their favor, and it's stacked against you unless you're counting cards, and you're able to do that really effectively. But in investing, you can use research, or you can use timing, or you can use other factors like price analysis to take bets where the odds are stacked more for you than they are against you. And that's what successful investors do, and they keep doing over time. And doesn't mean they'll win every bet. They just won't. Nobody who's made millions and billions of dollars in investing wins every bet. That's not part of the game. But they take bets where the odds are stacked in their favor. And that's the difference between investing and gambling. Gambling, the odds are stacked against you. And investing, the odds, you're using research to help the odds be stacked for you. All right.
Yeah.
What else are you looking at? Any other markets, anything else interesting going on?
Well, no, I think that's about it. I mean, that's pretty much everything. If we were going to look at Ethereum, that's still bubbling up in this consolidation pattern that looks like, I think it's going to break out, but we've got to wait until it does. But there's some resistance here. This level at 28.17 that we pointed out a few times, the moving averages there as well. It's just hovering below it, and I think it will squeeze because of everything that you said just before, that there's no one really looking at it now or expecting altcoins not to work out very well. And therefore it has got, I think this structure is actually okay from a very long-term point of view. If we change this to, let's have a look, change it to a monthly chart and then just take a step back, it looks like a big triangle. So, I'd be worried if it was sort of approaching this support here and making it look like a major top, but it's not done that. So the big points here are triangular, which means it's compressing. And it means also that eventually when the breakout comes, it could be quite a big one. But, we just have to wait and see, take it one step at a time, cross each bridge as we come to it. But for the moment, I think this is still looking very interesting. Still got to be on watch that this is going to break out, move higher, and extend this move.
Yeah, and what generally happens is a lot of momentum goes into Bitcoin first, and then it breaks into ETH and some of the other altcoins. And then later, a little bit later than that even, is when the smaller cap altcoins with strong fundamentals really run. And some of the people that are concerned that there's not going to be any major altcoin run, what they're saying is there's so much crap out there, and they're not wrong on that. But that doesn't mean good businesses with good product market fit for what they're developing, and there's real use cases for what they're doing, won't run tremendously. And so that's where I disagree with them, is there are lots of smaller cap altcoins that have really strong fundamentals because the market needs what it is they're doing in some way or form or fashion. And usually that's after Bitcoin runs and then ETH runs that people go into super research mode. And that's usually when those smaller cap altcoins with strong fundamentals run really hard. And that's what I'm waiting for. That's mostly what I'm invested in.
Yeah. We just have to wait and see. I mean, it's, as I say, the macro situation, and part of that is the fact that Bitcoin is over 100,000. And you know, I was just counting how many weeks the market has been rallying for. It rallied for 7 constant weeks, and it's having a bit of a pullback. And if people are sort of worried about it because it's had a 2-week pullback, then I think it's slightly unreasonable to expect it just to keep going up, you know, what, 9, 10, 15 weeks in a straight line. I mean, it's just not how the markets work. And also in terms of percentages, if you were to speak to, if you look at Warren Buffett's long-term trading, and you look at what sort of percentages he will make and compound, anything that's over double digits is regular, whatever the market's doing, will produce huge results, you know. So it's really, I suppose, because this is such a new space and there's so much volatility, people don't think that they're making anything unless they're making like 50%, which is just, it is crazy. You will look back and go, okay, that was unrealistic or unreasonable. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely possible because it is so volatile, but because of the volatility, because of the high risks, you also get the potential, you get the rewards, but you also, the risks come with it, you know. So that's why you look at these different markets. Yes, it's unlikely that the stock market will go down by 50%, but it's not going to go up by 300%. And it's absolutely fair to go into it and say, yeah, well, that's why I want to trade these products, because they are so volatile. Again, it's understandable, but the best of the best long-term traders, long-term funds, aren't expecting to make more than 10 or 15% consistently every year on their portfolios. And when you see such outsized gains, you've got to be aware that that is because things are unusual, and there is a reason for it. So look, long may it continue. There is plenty of fun to be had. It's a bit like the sea, you know. It's great fun, but it can be dangerous, and that's how it's got to be approached.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into some of these altcoins. Take a look at, starting off with Optimism.
Yeah, should we just have a quick look at Bitcoin itself, because we
Sure.
I didn't actually put the chart up. Well, I did, but I was talking about something else while we were looking at it. I mean, again, this is the 7-week rally, and it's come off for 2, near an all-time high. I think that the trend still looks like it wants to go up. Not much more really to add, other than, yeah, perhaps a pullback. Maybe, I don't know. I don't see it coming. Could come below 100,000, of course, but because sentiment is neutral, I'm just wondering whether it will just go sideways for a bit more and then continue on its path up over 110, maybe to 115, something like that. So, you know, this trend is still bullish. This is a correction that's happening a couple of weeks. That's absolutely fine. If the correction happens and altcoins go up, then even better, because it just means that there's some rotation. But broadly speaking, the big trends are still looking positive. And this is one of those macro things that point to, you know, the bigger sort of top that perhaps we'll be looking at some point in the future, that, you know, I mention every now and again, but we should really cross that bridge when we come to it. So ETH looking like it's going to catch up a bit. Bitcoin looking still like it wants to go higher. It may correct because it's perhaps a little bit overbought. It's already started that, but the trend is still up.
Yes. And this is just how bull runs look and feel, with Bitcoin going up and then coming back down and then Bitcoin going up. And it feels like it takes forever. But if you look at that Bitcoin chart, it really wasn't all that long ago that Bitcoin was all the way down at about 14,000. It's now a good 6-7x from there, which is incredible returns. And I think it's still going higher. Now, later in the run is when altcoins really pop off. That hasn't happened yet. And I'm looking forward to that part, because most of what I put in is altcoins, because when they run, they can run so much more. The kind of gains that you can get in some of the riskier altcoins are tremendous, as well as, well, some of them do go to zero, which is why I diversify across a bunch of them. We'll talk more about that in a second. So let's take a look at Optimism, which is a little bit of a higher market cap altcoin, and let's see what's going on with its price.
Yeah. So I'll just get that up on Optimism.
Yeah, there we go. The OP symbol.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing there's going to be a bit more history than this. For the moment, this looks still corrective. Let's just check it's up to date. Yeah, it still looks corrective. It's trading down this trend line, or this trend, and we've got these rising lows across here. But that's not really at the sort of rate that's telling me the trend is up. It's telling me that it's flat, and it's hanging around close to this support. So I don't like the look of that, really. It just feels still negative, and in a bit of a danger zone. So I would say, for me, this is a wait. This is the trend line that it's pressing down, which was a bit more aggressive. So at least it's tried to rally. At least it's tried to move up. But you can see it's kind of painted into a bit of a corner here. So it needs to get through this trend line, 0.1, 0.2. It would have to get at least through $1, I would say, before it would look like something that's properly basing. So I think we'll come back in a couple of weeks and see where it is. But my concern is that if it wants to break this lower point, it's gone 1, 2, 3. It's very close to that. If it has a fourth go, it might come back and test these lows here. But if within 2 or 3 weeks we're still trading over this low, it would have gone sideways enough to maybe break that trend line. It'll look a bit more interesting. But that would be step one for me to think about it going up. And it hasn't done anything yet that I would be sort of saying it's imminent. So it's a wait.
Awesome. What's interesting is the history of Optimism. So we do have a little bit more history here. The price came out during the bear market. So after 2021, we were well into 2022, and we see it in early 2024 going crazy. This is along the same time as the AI narrative really ran hard. And this is when Optimism was getting covered by all the big channels. I mentioned at the beginning that incentives are all wrong for crypto YouTube. If your goal is to build a really big YouTube channel so that you get really big revenues from YouTube, you get big sponsorship revenues, then you cover what is hot, what everyone is talking about. So Optimism was being covered a ton in here. If you look at the charts, was this a good time or a bad time to buy Optimism? Well, a bad time. It's since corrected. The bull market isn't yet, so it came out of the narrative and it's corrected back downwards here. Much more attractive price. Now, am I ultimately holding Optimism? I don't know enough about the fundamentals behind it, and it's outside the market cap range of most of what I'm looking at, which is why I don't know that much about the fundamentals, because I'm not buying blue chips. If I were buying blue chips, I would be more researched on Optimism to know whether I liked it enough or not, because this is a much more attractive price. It's come down significantly from its $5 highs down to 65 cents. which starts to be really, really attractive. I like this kind of pattern. Now, could it break further to the downside? It may. We still see a lot of the token investing has happened, but there's still more to happen, and it happens every month, and probably that's getting sold off. So it might break to the downside here if the altcoin run isn't yet ready to happen, and I don't think it is yet ready to happen. So you may even see cheaper prices. But if I were buying higher cap altcoins and I was interested in the fundamentals of Optimism, I like where the price is at, and it would be a small buy. And then if it broke further to the downside, then I would be buying bigger amounts. Let's take a look next at Raydium, which is a DEX on Solana. It's one of the biggest DEXs on Solana. Let's see what's happening with its price.
Yeah, Raydium is at the moment it's in a kind of neutral point, but it's in a bullish trend. So I don't think you can argue with the fact that this has been, going up since October 23. That was a big base. It made a basing pattern and has traded up to highs, come back to retest good support, and now it's kind of halfway between this key high and this major support. So we're in a bit of a neutral spot. But when you take a step back, it's like still in a bullish trend. It's not, if you compare it to the chart we just looked at, it's looks very different. And in the short term, looks like it will pull back a bit, perhaps to $2, maybe just slightly below. But it's trying to work its way up from these lows that printed on this on the 7th of April. So overall, I think the bias for me would be to the upside. It's trading around some good technical levels. This was a double top that it's stopped at on the way up. You see that resistance at $3.84. So that's where it was sold off. That's where we got this big move. And we can see that that's very aggressive, all the selling that happened there. It's come back to retest it. Of course, that's where people who bought it bail out their position, has a little correction. If it starts to print some green bars and head back towards it, then it will look really interesting, because the chances of a break through this 387, which is the big break point, would go up. So I would say it's neutral in the short term, but it's positive in the longer term. So I don't know how we do that with the thumbs and stuff, but I would like to see this again in a few weeks' time to see if it's managing to hold these levels and perhaps even break this 387. But yeah, overall, I would be bullish in the longer term.
So be between a wait and a buy.
Yeah, exactly. Waiting to buy, I suppose.
Let's just do this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Raydium has one of the better DEXs on Solana, and I like that about it. So the price action is interesting. It got savagely cheap here, all the way down to like 14 cents, and then it came back to about 17 cents here back in 2023. So October 2023, the price got really cheap. It's right around the time blockchain gaming really took off, and Solana must have been more out of the narrative, and the DEX on Solana. Now, later as meme coins ran and Solana was getting a lot of traction, you really see Raydium's price going up. You really see it here where it went all the way to $7.40. It savagely pulled back to $1.50, and now it's sitting around $2.40. Market cap's interesting. It's about a $700 million market cap. I think Raydium gets a lot more traction in the bull market. That probably from here it has 10 to 30x potential in the bull run. Price isn't as juicy as it was before. Price is just okay. I like juicy prices. For me, it's just waiting for a little bit juicier price. Am I going to be buying Raydium? No, I'm mostly in market caps that are under 70 million, and a lot of them in the 10 or $20 million range and less, because they just have stronger upside potential if they survive. Now, is Raydium going to survive? Probably. And it's probably got 10 to 30x potential in a bigger bull run is my guess. So it's not a bad strategy, in my opinion. Raydium isn't a bad buy. There's just other riskier stuff that I'm in that I hope has much bigger gains. But the price action is like a wait for me. I would just like a little bit better price if I were going to be buying Raydium, and I do like Raydium fundamentally. Let's take a look at OMI. Everyone knows how much I love OMI. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so we were looking at a lot and it was going down, and then it actually came off the list and we started to look at it again because I could see that there was something building up for perhaps a breakout and maybe a base. And we got phase one of that, and then it came back for a retest. And I think last week I was saying it was a small buy here, but to still be cautious with it. And I think I also said that if it breaks this, I would get out. So typically it's doing what a lot of markets do when they're trying to base out. You just get whipsawed around when you're trying to protect your capital with small trades, because it's gone below the level and that's gone back above the level. So it's like, okay, we have to rebuy a small position because it's now back above the level that we were looking at. So all this volatility should be, let's put it in a different way. I think sentiment is now kind of broadly negative on altcoins and probably extremely negative on OMI. So what I want to see is how well it holds in at these levels. Does it go sideways? Does it continue to consolidate? And that will tell me that this is building an even bigger base. Still early stages, still too early for me to get truly excited. But yeah, I think it's nice to look at it each week. It's up, whatever we've got on the, whatever it's printed, 4.1% against others. Yeah, it's doing very well. It's doing well on a relative basis, just on today and from a short-term point of view. But it's not enough for me to get fully excited. The trend is still down. We've got to proceed with caution. But it's enough for me to want to re-nibble it because it's over this line. And then I would put my stop below here and say, no, if it gets below there, I'll get out. But it's still just small. I'm intrigued by the fact that this is continuing to go sideways. It's had one attempt to change the trend completely, which has been sold into. If and when it does that again and it gets to this sort of level, then I would get much more excited about this whole area being a base and it sort of going off into a more sustainable upward trend. But as you can see, there's going to be a few steps before that happens, before we get there. So that's why I'm happy to proceed with small positions until it actually really starts to accelerate. So it's a kind of small buy, cautious, very cautious coffee money type situation. One where, okay, if it stops out, it stops out. But it's still technically looking like it's trying to do something. I don't want to turn my back on this and have it go up a lot and not actually see it, and that's why it's kind of on watch at the moment, because it's doing something different to what it was doing here. Here it was just straight. Now it's downward trend, no interest. But since pretty much this level here and across here, the dynamics have been starting to change. So yeah, so that's that for this week. We'll see what it's like next week.
Yeah. So let's see. Everyone knows I love OMI. In fact, yesterday's show with Randy is called OMI is My Homie, a specific show we do every Tuesday evenings on covering OMI. And this is one of my favorites. Now, the price action goes back farther than this, but this is all we can see on CoinMarketCap. Let me go to CoinGecko, shows the true history on it, which looks like this, which it did terrible until the greater bull run of 2021. And it swung so high up, about 3,000x. It is done generally terrible, because what goes up too high does come down too high. And that's exactly the pattern it's following here. So like Wes, who's always so vocal about his thoughts, it says, OMI has been a massive disappointment. And that really has a lot to do with expectations, Wes, because OMI is going to continue to do poorly until it does very well. And so disappointment, you're disappointed because you thought it would do like better sooner, is my guess. And a lot of that is like, there's a specific way I look at crypto, in that when I came in 2017, I was pretty new and I was trying to figure things out. And I realized during that bear market that the people that had made massive money in 2017, they had been accumulating in 2015, 2016. And they were holding to that point where I call it when the rains come in, where just massive money, massive FOMO comes in. The prices of most everything go up like crazy. And then they sold off into that. And those are the people that made millions of dollars in that environment. So that was my thesis for the bear market of 2019, 2020, even 2018, was just accumulate what I felt were fundamentally strong projects, hold them till 2021. And had you done that with OMI, you would have been doing absolutely terrible until you suddenly did well. And that's what I think is going to happen again. That you feel like you're doing absolutely terrible, 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 even worse, 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 until suddenly you do well. And that's how a lot of these higher risk altcoins go. Now, OMI, I think, is one of the highest potential returns for what I feel the risk is. And that's why it's one of my favorites. And I think OMI will do very well. And that's my bet. It's one of my largest altcoin positions. So we'll see how it plays out. But you see the market cap. Let's go back to the screen. The market cap here is under 60 million. I like that. Fully diluted valuation isn't very much higher than that. The circulating supply is 270 billion. And some people say, oh my gosh, that circulating supply is so high. This token will never do anything. That's not true at all. The circulating supply being so high is actually a good thing because it keeps the price per token down even once it pumps tremendously from here. And when it pumps tremendously from here, you say the price is 10x, 100x from here. It'll be at 2.1 cents. And a lot of people will still see it as relatively cheap, even though it's already gone 100x from here. So what's funny is when a lot of new people are coming into crypto, they like buying tokens that are under $1, under 10 cents. And so even if only 100x from here, it'll still only be 2.1 cents because there is such a high circulating supply. And that's a good thing. If it had a much lower circulating supply, it would feel expensive much earlier. And I don't want that because I've seen new people come in and they buy what they feel are cheap prices per token. So when they look at Bitcoin, they're like, oh my gosh, one Bitcoin is, say at the time it's 200,000. I want something that's cheap. And they see OMI at 2.1 cents and they're like, I'm going to buy 1 million of those. Cool. That's what I want. And so I like the high circulating supply of OMI. I think it's a strength, not a weakness. Will OMI do well? I think the odds are extremely high that it will. And that's the bet I've taken. So for me at this price, it's a buy. I've been buying. So let's see. Where's my buy button? Awesome. We have one more to look at, and then we'll jump into some of the viewer suggestions. Let's take a look at DevvE.
Yeah. So DevvE was correcting, wasn't it? And it was stuck in this kind of triangular constriction. I think we were talking about it breaking a bit lower and it being a wait because it looked like it wanted to retest this 49 cents level, which it kind of did. And then the next support below that was 45 from this breakout point. So between 49 and 45 cents was kind of the support area. I mentioned 49, but you can see 45 clearly is also a big level because it 1, 2, and then it broke out. Actually, the proper breakout started from 45. So anything within that area. So it's bounced from that, which is step one. That's a good sign. I'm not going to move from the neutral position just yet because it needs to do one other thing, and that's to break this downward trend line that's been fairly consistent since this point here, since this overall high. So so for me, it's going to be a wait, but I still think structurally it looks like it was trending up, come back for a retest. It should really start to go now. So I'm going to be looking for signs of this breaking this trend line here and it moving back up into a more consistent, solid trend. The alternative to that is it doesn't, and it just hangs around here and continues to drift down. If it just goes sideways for the next couple of weeks, I won't be, well, give it a month. If it just keeps going sideways, I'm not going to be that happy with it. I would like to see a strong push off from these levels right now, because on a pullback, this should be a buying opportunity where the market jumps in, and therefore the bounce should be fairly significant, not just a sort of little, small rebound where it's kind of muted and it doesn't look like there's much interest there. So, so overall, given that it is still trading in an upward trend from here, I'm going to keep the positive view for the long term, but I do want to see it now. It's been drifting for a while, and I do want to see it moving fairly quickly within the next couple of weeks off this low to see if the dynamics have changed and this trend is coming to the end. Also, I want to see some proof that this trend is coming to the end. First one is that it's hit support, which is a good sign, and it has reacted, which is a good sign. But I'd like to see a bigger reaction and a break of that trend line. So it's going to be a wait for the moment, but definitely a lot to look for in the future.
So I like DevvE a lot. It's got great potential. And what a lot of people want to know is at this point, they get scared and they want to know, will DevvE realize its potential? And that's an unknown. I strongly think it will, but we will see. It's one of my largest altcoin holdings. I like it. It's gotten relatively cheap again after having gone all the way up to $1.70. It's back at 52 cents. It recently touched 48 cents. And you see this slowing of the trend downwards as it corrects downwards. See how that did that here? Slowed and then it reversed. You see it slowing here. So are we at the bottom of this part of the trend? I don't know. But we're probably close. If not, and it's gotten really cheap. It's gotten to be a really good buy again. It's under a $50 million market cap for a project that's a layer 1 blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. I think it's the fastest blockchain out there, as well as they can spin up additional shards so that as that load gets reached across a lot of things, they can just spin up more shards and hit those kinds of speeds. It is an enterprise level blockchain. It's also a permission blockchain. So in that, things like Solana, Cardano, they're permissionless blockchains, which means anyone can write to them. Permission blockchain is more what companies are going to use, governments are going to use, so that not anyone can write to them. There's less bad actors that can do malicious things on permission blockchains. And enterprises haven't largely adopted blockchain yet for their own personal use. So I think it's a narrative of the future and that they're positioned really well. And I think it's going to be a big runner in the upcoming bull run, but we'll see how it plays out. So I've taken my bets. I think the odds are really good that DevvE does really well, and I placed my bets accordingly, being one of my largest positions. And look forward to finding out exactly how it does and how it performs. I do think it's near a bottom and positioned to go higher. Wes says, DevvE teased an announcement in January, then nothing for 6 months is odd. Wes, it is really easy to criticize companies. Running them and creating something is hard, and that's why very few people can do it. Being critical of it is like being in the backseat while someone else is driving in complex situations and finding complaints about everything. It is easy to find complaints. They did tease that they have a big announcement and they were waiting for some regulatory approval before the partner would allow them to release the announcement. And that regulatory approval that they're waiting for still has not come through. And so, well, it's, I'm sure, a very fun place waiting for government's regulatory approval before the announcement can be made. I think they anticipated being able to make this announcement way before now, and yet they still can't. So you're not wrong there, Wes. But if you're always looking, like in your different comments, it's just negative, negative, negative. Why is it so much of your outlook is so negative is the question I have for you. This is a place that you can make such good money. And that doesn't mean you want rose-colored glasses. You want to look at things objectively. But if everything's negative, then you're not looking at things objectively. All right. So DevvE's a huge buy. Now, people criticized me when I was saying DevvE was the most amazing buy at 25 cents and 20 cents and 16 cents. And then they're like, oh, shoot, Rain, I should have bought DevvE. And then they're like, oh, wait, DevvE's terrible. It's, 50 cents. And it's like, look, this is what good buys look like. It looks like it's scary because the price just keeps getting cheaper. That's what it looked like here. If you were to buy at 14 cents, it felt scary as hell because all you could see was the chart to here, and it felt like it would never turn around. And then it did. All right, so let's look at some of the viewer suggestions. Starting at the top, we have Wealth Abundance saying, hey, Rain, whenever you get a chance, can you do a deep dive on AERGO, please? I don't know if we can do a deep dive on AERGO. We can do a superficial dive on AERGO. Low market cap and major fundamental upgrades happening, and they had a really huge spike in April. Well, we will take a look at that. Oh, did I? There we go. AERGO. I think I've got your screen. No?
Yeah, you have. Sorry, I thought that was for you, not for me.
Yeah, let's take a look at AERGO.
I thought it meant the fundamentals. Sorry, I didn't realize it was you wanted a. Do you want a technical chart or do you want? I thought.
Yeah, let's look at a technical chart.
Okay. Sorry, when I saw the word fundamental, I thought that was what you wanted. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Where is it gone now? I think you've taken it off the. Have you taken it off? Oh no, AERGO. Let's.
Yeah, AERGO.
AERGO. Yeah. So okay, this is a strange looking price action, I have to say. I mean, look, if we take out this area here and say, well, what's going on? Range bound, right? So we've got a kind of central price around 12 cents, and then downward trend reverses up to a massive spike and then back into this central point again. So it's tried to break out from the gravity of this 12 cents area. If we look at the average, it would probably be around that or maybe a bit lower, but it's not really done anything at all apart from being extremely volatile. That's why I say when things go up, you don't want them to go up too fast because it'll be unsustainable. And that's kind of what's happened here. It's gone up. Maybe there's been some great big announcement or whatever. I don't know. But this is way too volatile to be considering a position. The way I look at it and I say, this is where I buy and this is where I put a stop and all that sort of stuff. How can you do that when it's swinging around a huge amount? I could put a position on here and I don't know whether it's going to be down here tomorrow or the next few days or whether it's going to be up here. It's just at some point things can be too volatile. Now, assuming that some of this is, an incorrect print on the chart, because that does happen and it's less volatile than that, then it looks like it's going to continue to maybe drift a bit lower, perhaps towards 10 cents. And then it should find support below 10 cents because that's what it's done before. Getting down to sort of 8, that seems to be a bit of a buy area. This looked like it was an anomaly based on what it had done before. But it's not one that I would really want to trade that much because it's, given what it's done before, it hasn't got a good trading signature, if that makes sense. It's just been too volatile. Now, that's not saying that it can't trend up and it can't be successful. Of course it can, and it can change, but I want to see its trading style or characteristics changing before I would jump in. But definitely there are levels that you could look for, and if there's something specific in the fundamentals that makes it attractive and there's some timelines to look out for where the chart could change, please ask for it again and we'll look at it and see what's happened and see whether this volatility's calmed down into a more kind of sustainable trend. But for now, and for me, I'd have to say it's definitely a wait.
This price action is really interesting. I was looking at the price action some more, and usually you see bigger swings and not so highly volatile in the short term, right? So it swings between 45 cents down to the cheapest I have here is 2 cents. So 45 cents, way down to 9 cents, way back up to 43 cents. And I'm not sure this range. I do like the market cap range it's in. It's under 16 million. I like that. It's on Coinbase already. What I like about that is, well, in a lower market cap like this, as people are coming into the crypto space, it'll be really easy for massive money to flow into AERGO if it gets some traction. I like that part of it. What I find interesting is, I want to know more about the token vesting schedule, and usually Coinbase has that. Let's see. We see the circulating supply. I guess most of the supply is already in circulation. That's good. So this big swing that it had, I guess, is the early March pump in 2021, and then the later October, November pump. And then it mostly corrected down, bottoming out just recently on the 31st of March at looks like about 6.5 cents. Then all of a sudden it took off and went 6x. It's come back down, probably for a decent buy. Now I was looking to figure out some more about what AERGO is really about. Fast and scalable hybrid blockchain, developer friendly, enterprise grade with SQL support. Okay, that seems like a different or a good enough narrative. HPP times Arbitrum, building the AI-powered L2 of the future. Okay, with AIPP 22 passed, HPP will launch on the Arbitrum Orbit stack, bringing AI native and data-centric infrastructure to Ethereum's leading L2 stack. More coming. Interesting. Okay. So this one bears further research, but I'm going to venture to say for me, it's at an attractive price. Having taken off all the way to 36 cents and then come back down to 12 cents, bring its market cap back under 60 million. Interesting. I would rate it a small buy, and it would take further research for me to decide if it was a bigger buy. All right, let's take a look next. What do we got? I appreciate you also sharing. Wealth Abundance shared a whole bunch of some fundamentals on it. Appreciate giving us some details. Low market cap, major fundamental upgrades happening, and they had a really huge spike in April. That kind of helps me for ones that I'm not following closely. Okay, Shago says, good morning, guys. What do you think about CRO with a new ETF? So let's look at CRO's token price.
Okay. So that's Cronus, is it? Or is it just CRO? Is that the same thing?
CRO, should be, is it Cronus? I think that was, it should be the coin for crypto.com, I think. At least. And so maybe Cronus is the name. Let me just make sure that's the token for crypto.com. It should be. I don't know. It looks like CRO is Cronus. I thought CRO was the name of the token for crypto.com, and probably it is. And maybe just the full name is Cronus.
Should we double check or?
I am trying to double check it, but it's not quickly apparent yet. Let me check the website.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Look here, crypto.com has rebranded to Cronus. Read more here. Okay. So let's have a look at that, see what's up. Yeah, it's interesting chart in the sense that we've got this working upwards of price action. Now this looks a bit triangular, so it's kind of on this it's on this tipping point that if it just gets a little bit higher, it will tip the balance towards the bulls. And this level here at 11 cents, or basically 12, is a really good level. Let me just draw a line across it so you can see. Here we go. So it was the peak here. Tried to break it here. It was important on the way down here as well. When it got through it, the bearish trend happened. Obviously, this rally went straight through it, stopped again on the way down, came back, tried to test it on the way up again, and now it's working back towards it. So, you know, I think for me, this is the level it needs to take out for me to get bullish. But as it's creeping and sort of moving slowly towards it, I like the fact that it's doing that, because when the markets break out, they break out quite hard and fast. So so the dynamics will change on an important level breakout. So if it continues just to wind up very slowly towards that and then get close to it, I personally like to look for a break or look for it to break just before it gets through the level. Now, there is a risk that it won't break that level. There's a risk it hits it and just comes off and you have to stop out. But at least on the chart, you've got some points where you can say intelligently that this is where I shouldn't be in it because it's gone wrong. And we can start to draw an upward trend line from here to say, look, if I buy it here and this is my stop point or below there, then, you know, we've got a risk reward trade, or I have. So, and that's how I want to look at it. I want a parachute level. I want a level to get out to tell me that I'm wrong and something to hold on to when it goes up. So it is kind of a wait here because it's still in this sort of consolidation phase. But next couple of days, it might be in here. And if it is, I'd be much more interested in buying it.
Yeah, this one's interesting. So crypto.com, see, the CRO token for a long time was just associated with their exchange. They have now turned it into a full blockchain called Cronus. So this is the same way that Binance went with their BNB token, where first it was just a token related to their exchange, and then they gave it additional utility by creating its own blockchain for it. So good move on crypto.com's coin. It is on Coinbase, so it is on a lot of exchanges, KuCoin, Kraken. So both Kraken and Coinbase are available to U.S. investors, so money can flow in pretty quickly should they get get some momentum. Now, the market cap right now is at 30 billion. And let's just look really closely where market caps can go on something like their competitors, which would be BNB's token. So if we look at BNB here, the market cap is 94 billion. So, and we're not even in a bull run. So where could Cronus go from here? Well, it could go 30x. Should it get as much traction as Binance's token has. But we'll see if that happens. And it could go higher than 30x. I do like this general pattern. So it got really expensive in later November of 2021. So remember, October, November was the second part of the bull run of 2021. And it's almost 70 cents. It then, as happens in the bear market, got really cheap all the way down to 5 cents. So it recently touched back near those levels, hitting 7 cents, and now it's gotten a little bit more expensive. But I do think for a lot of tokens, their bear market lows are in, and they won't retouch them, and it's not very far away from the very bottom of that, being at 10 cents, and the low was about 5 cents. I'd say overall, it's a good deal for it's a really good, in my opinion, a really good blue chip with 30x potential, maybe even more if you're lucky in a greater bull run. So it's a good one to keep an eye on for those interested in blue chips. 30x potential for a blue chip is pretty incredible. I didn't easily see the news about the ETFs, so you might fill us in more and we can read that comment. I didn't see what the news were with CRO ETFs. Paul, I hoped you jumped into Strike. Did you see what happened the last few days? I'm looked at the price chart. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Can you pull up the chart? And
Yeah, I had a look too. I'm not sure either, unless strike relates to the US dollar Korean won that I was talking about with uh, about a month or so ago. So yeah, I'm not sure what's really happening there, other than it strike is going. So I don't remember talking about it either. So apologies for that. Maybe it's just me and my memory. Can you remember anything about it? Perhaps you could let us know what we said.
Vaguely, there's a few different strikes, so maybe we're looking at this wrong one, but I don't remember. Yeah. I'm not sure which one he's talking about. All right. I don't know. So, Rivian, unless you can give us more clarification, we're just going to have to move on. Wes says, Rain's number one altcoin pick bump isn't looking good. Well, that depends on how you're looking at it, Wes. And from the point of view you're looking at it, it is terrible. But that's not necessarily the case. Now, is the price way down? Yes. I would say the risk is even higher than it was when I covered my top 5 or 6 altcoin picks last November. And Bump was my number one. Now, I'm seeing some things from that team that I can't say I love. I do like to see communication from the team. And there's a little bit of communication from the team to their community. They have been very slow to respond to me since about last February, March. I can't say I love that, because what I want to know is that they're still alive. What my guess is, they've entered low flow mode, which is not a bad thing. Most projects, most small cap altcoins, if they're smart, until things go crazy, they often have to enter low flow mode so that they can survive until the bull market takes off. Now, what I like about Bumper is they have some massive innovation that I think has really, really, really good use cases. But if they can't survive until this bull run, well, then the token will do terrible. So the question is, can they survive till this bull run? I think they can. I think it's smart that they entered low flow mode so that they can survive. But I can't say I love the low communication from them. The price has gotten even cheaper because the low communication. So if you take a look at the Bump token, we will see that their price is really at bear market lows. And some people see that as a bad thing. It depends. If they end up ultimately surviving, this is an amazing thing. I wouldn't look to price to tell you for sure if something's not going to survive or not. That's what a lot of people see. Oh my gosh, price is cheaper than ever. It's definitely dead. That's not necessarily true. That is often not true. But every once in a while, it is true. Is that what it means here? I don't know. I would like to see more communication from them, so I know. But I do know from here, their price has fallen off a cliff. And from here, the price has gone down another 90% from already cheap prices. So it could be the best buy of the century, or it could go to zero. And I don't know. But if you're thinking about crypto investing right, you're thinking of it as early stage business investing, because that's essentially what it is, especially when you're investing in lower cap altcoins. They're early stage businesses. And generally in early stage businesses, if you invest in 10 projects, one will go well in 10 years. One in the first 10 to 12 years will make you really good money. 2, and this is if you're picking pretty good, 2 will do okay and 7 will fail. What I love about the crypto space is ultimately you don't have to wait 10 years for a cash out. You just have to wait till the next 4-year bull market. And you don't know if it will ultimately survive and become cash flow positive or not. Often you just need to wait till the bull market happens, and they only have to survive till the bull market happens. Whereas in traditional business and early stage investing, they have to survive until they become revenue positive, or like 10 to 12 years down the road when they can do an IPO. And so I think crypto investing is superior to other early stage business investing if you're doing it right, because ultimately it's unclear whether Bumper will survive 10 years, 12 years after their inception. But I do suggest that if they survive till the coming bull run and they get some traction, then they're also going to make it long term. The question is, are they going to survive in the short term till they get there? Now, what I love about this price is it's a really good pickup for small amounts of money. It is not the kind of price that you would have to be a huge risk taker to put in huge money in Bumper, and you'd have to spread out your buys over time so you don't pump the price on yourself. But at this point, it's unclear whether they'll survive or not. And if they do, the gains from here will be massive, like you can't even imagine. And if they don't, well, it might be 100% loss of what you put in. Did you have any thoughts on their price action, Paul, on Bumper?
Yeah, I've not looked at it for a while. Let's see. I might not even get an update. Yeah, it's still going sideways. This was we talked about this downward trend here. It's sold off onto an aggressive low, and this could be making a base. I mean, you've seen some evidence of it spiking up, but it's still got to be a way. It's not held over this trend line. And if I was looking for a let's buy it, it would be, I'd give it like a time period. It needs to be over this 0.0048 level, this resistance point. If it holds over there for like a week, then I'd say, okay, that's pretty interesting. This could be a base and it might be worth going with it. It's been fairly, it's had 2 tests of this low here and it's held in. So I think we should come back and look at it again, because this could be a base. There's more evidence of it making a base now than there was here, where it was just a smooth downward trend in a definite way. And we've also at this point had a very aggressive sell-off, like proper capitulation. So in that capitulation period, that could mark the absolute low, because you've had such an emotional move. Since then, if we look at that, since then it's not traded any lower. So that is kind of of interest. Now, the fact that they haven't responded to you is a little bit of concern. I'd like to hear something from the teams that people like you are talking to just to reassure that good things are happening. But in terms of the chart, yeah, that could be the low. I mean, that's the sort of thing one would expect to indicate that you've hit the nadir. But that doesn't necessarily mean that now is the time to buy, even though I'm saying that, because it could still go sideways for a very long time. And for me, that ties up capital. So I just want to see when it's starting to accelerate and do this sort of stuff in this direction, then that's a train I want to jump on. But yeah, definitely let's come back and have another look at it in a few weeks' time.
So early stage business investing in the blockchain space is risky. I want to show you another project that was a big risk, and that's Ecomi, right? So if you look at how it did,
no, you're right.
It did terrible, absolutely terrible, until it did really well. And so if you look at it, it was, hold on, it's just doing whatever it wants. So this is what the chart looked like. In fact, it ICO'd at a much higher price than this, and then it just got savaged. And there was a point in here where they had already launched the app. The app, you could purchase things on the app, but almost nobody was using it. And so when they launched the app, they had a spike in price, but then everyone saw that nobody's using the app, and it just got flooded. Like, oh my gosh, they're never going to survive, and it's terrible. And they were at a critical point. They had spent a bunch of money on development of their app, and they had got the Batman license for some of their stuff, as well as a few other licenses for their early release of their product. And sales weren't going well, and it looked pretty dire for them. And so the market cap back then would have been extremely cheap. Like their market cap right now at a much higher price point than this is 57 million. So at this point, like the market cap, they had way less tokens in circulation. Their market cap would have been probably $1 million or so, maybe even less. And then all of a sudden, the bull market happened, and their price went 3,000x. So that's risk versus reward, right? That's what could happen to Bumper if they survive. Also, what could happen to Bumper is they don't survive and their token goes to zero. I don't know which of those two will play out, but that's the part with risk. Those who take the risks, you're looking at risk versus reward, and you're trying to take ones where you have a decent chance of winning. And if you win, the rewards are massive enough to make it worth your time. Bill Gardner says, I'll probably be buying more Bump. At this price, it's amazing because you can buy for $100 what would have cost you $1,000. And $1,000, it was a cheap price. $100, it's a really cheap price, but you do have a little bit greater risk of them potentially not making it through the bull run. I do love their use case. I hope they get traction in the DeFi narrative with what they're doing, because it has better downside protection than options, and I think their technology is amazing.
Yeah, as was mentioned in the comments, I was actually looking at the chart that I was looking at wasn't up to date. It's actually really hard to find an up-to-date chart. I looked everywhere, and yeah, so apologies about that. That does obviously that I should have spotted that, but actually the chart, I've got a screen in front of me. My other screen was blocking the bottom of the chart with the date. So, and I haven't looked at it, to be perfectly frank, since you last asked me to, which was ages ago. So I'm now looking at what I think is the closest up-to-date chart, but even that's saying the 26th of May. So that's not even up to date either. So I don't know where we're getting any prices from, but yeah, that chart isn't probably, as you suspect, it's not looking good. It's still trending down. It did break that previous low, and it's just still trending lower. So again, whatever potential there was there, it invalidated as soon as it broke that low. So it's got even more work to do. So yeah, for me, it would definitely be a wait. People are buying it because they see something else. Then that's clearly, I'm not saying they're wrong, because I don't know fundamentally what's happening, and that might be something that it will get solved. But I think we've said it a few times that the market environment seems to support this sort of project. So it's a bit, I can't square the circle as to why a product that should work in this environment. I mean, when we eventually go into a crypto bear market, would that be an environment for this? Would everyone want to then hedge their positions? Perhaps. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's like, this is a bear market product and we're in a bull market. But I don't know. It seems a bit odd. But in terms of the price action, the way it looks here, which again is not completely up to date, I personally couldn't justify a buy for me. I'd need more evidence that it's spaced out.
One of the challenges is market awareness. Most of the market is massively unaware of Bumper, and they're not utilizing it. So the question is, will it get traction? Like OMI, their token, they have the VV app for digital collectibles. And one of the problems that they were having in a bear market, in early bull market where Bitcoin's going up, but altcoins aren't, is they weren't getting any traction for their actual use case, because nobody was paying attention to crypto. Nobody was paying attention to the digital revolution that crypto enables. Just like nobody's paying attention right now to DeFi and what Bumper can do. And so almost nobody is using it compared to the number of users who get it if they were aware of it. And also people learning to do things a new way. There's a learning curve there. And that really accelerates during a blow off top of crypto, where everybody starts to focus in on what crypto can do and what are the new use cases, and try out new use cases. Like if we have another DeFi run, that's where Bumper will get traction. It will get usage if it survives. And then everyone will be like, oh my gosh, this is genius. And that's when you get outsized gains in that type of environment. is where a token like Bumper can go 3,000x in a matter of 2 months. And that's the kind of gains you can get in crypto if Bumper survives from here. So it's like, okay, let's say there's a 50% chance it survives and a 50% chance it dies. But if it survives, you can get somewhere between 100x to 3,000x gains. And if it doesn't survive, you lose everything. Well, that's pretty good compared to the odds you get at, the craps table, or the odds that you get at the roulette table, where if you go all in on black, if you win, you double your money. And if you lose, well, you lose everything. But why a lot of people play roulette is the answer happens immediately, right? Or relatively immediately. In this, the answer isn't going to happen for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 months, maybe. And so a lot of people are just impatient. And if they see it break down further from here, they just clear their chips off the table and take the loss and move on. And they miss the bigger gains. Cool. All right, let's see. Was there any other ones? Vidimon says, strike on Cardano. You really have to clarify it for us if you can in the future. And I know you had done that before, but I'm not even finding strike on Cardano. He says a green logo.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've got
it. You found it, it looks like.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Did we talk about it then? Was it something that
I think we did, and he helped us find it, but like that clarification would have saved us valuable time.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Well, look, it's broken out, isn't it? It was clearly the break. I don't know when we looked at it, but wherever it was starting to accelerate, broke through this high, and then it just has extended, which is what you'd expect on a break of that kind. There's not, let's see how much data. We haven't got that much data. That's the only problem. So, could it turn around from here? Yeah, very easily. But the trend has been up. There's going to be an overwhelming desire to take profits from people who've, jumped on, especially considering this is running and leading the way. So let's see how much it consolidates, whether it sticks near the highs here. This is the sort of market you're going to be watching every day because it's very volatile and it's moving fast, and it needs up-to-date daily kind of technicals to kind of trade or watch, because what goes up fast can come down fast. So it's just a question of managing stops and expectations. But yeah, trend still looks bullish. It's not, I think I'll never call it the kind of prime breakout point has passed. So if I were looking at this right now and saying, should I buy it? Well, I could, but then I'd have to put my stop somewhere down here, which is quite far away, because it'd be protected as support. So when markets break out from resistance, they come back and sometimes test them as support from a longer term point of view. So I'd have to be prepared for a big retracement to come and hit this support. And then I'd expect it, or I'd want it to rebound from there for it to be tested and still be in the bull market. So that all will take time. So I'm basically saying that I want to I'm going to be dating this for a bit. I'm not going to marry this coin, but I'm going to date it for quite some time before I, and have the expectation that it'll pull back for a bit, which, given that there's not a lot of history on, I wouldn't feel that comfortable doing. If this was, say, I don't know, Solana, and it had broken into a new high, then because it's been established for so long, I'd feel much better about it breaking into a new high and it being more significant. But as I say, this is a space that is far more volatile. But yeah, great short-term gains. What I try to do in situations, or think about doing in situations like this, is exiting some of the position to maintain a profit, or even exiting, if I can, the capital that I've put in, and then you have somewhat of a risk-free trade and just let it run and just look at elsewhere and that way, you're not, of course, you've reduced your risk, which means you make less if it goes up, but it also protects some profit. And there will always be, from my point of view, there'll always be other technical setups and opportunities. You just have to wait a bit. Sometimes you have to wait a long time for them. Sometimes they all come at once, but they will definitely be more opportunities in the future. So it kind of depends on your philosophy in that regard. But there may be something fundamentally that, as I've said before, that you can see, because you'll see more than I can about the fundamentals that suggest that this should be held for longer. So I would go with that at that point. But technically, yeah, it's looked pretty good, and it's nice that it's broken out.
Yeah, Strike definitely broke out. And Vidimon says, when you looked at it, Paul, your cursory inspection gave you some pause about possibly dipping your toes in it. It was 62 cents when you looked. So
okay. So it was already high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So Strike, interesting. Essentially, it's perpetuals on Cardano with 10x leverage, and looks like Vidimon is saying, or what? Where was it? They're introducing SNEC perps. So this is on Cardano. SNEC is one of the leading meme coins on Cardano, just allowing some leverage trading on Cardano. So it sounds like this is pumping within the Cardano ecosystem. So it's just getting some traction. Like one of the companies I really covered did extremely well even during the bear market, and that's AERGO. They renamed it to something else, and I'm forgetting what the name was. But we covered that one early, and within the Cardano ecosystem, it did tremendously well, some major gains even during the bull market, which is unusual that things did so well during the bull market. And so Strike Finance on Cardano is getting some traction when most everything else isn't, because its narrative within the Cardano ecosystem is hitting quite well. And you see that with it going from 14 cents all the way up to almost $1 already. Now, this is not what I buy into. I do not chase green candles. Like Paul said, it will often come back and retest this 30-cent range. And at that point, it starts to get really interesting. When I see this, I'm like, well, darn it, I missed it. Oh, well. I only jump on board of boats that are at the dock, and this is left the dock. But sometimes they do come back to the dock, and then it's a good point to load up in. But thanks for bringing it to our attention, Vidimon, so that we could see. You see, even when nothing else is going on, there's a few coins that are popping off. Even when new money isn't coming into crypto, sometimes money is shifting within the crypto space. Alan says, great stream. Thanks, guys. I think OMI is up from here. Today, Dan mentioned VV interoperability with Stacker, Shopify, and other platforms using a Disney platform marketplace as an example. OMI to the moon. That is a big announcement. We'll see how that comes together. All right. I think that's all for this week. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for all the picks. Thanks for all the comments. And, wealth abundance. You've given us a few to look for. I've copied those across. I'm going to check those out. We'll see what's going on with those low cap gems, apparently.
Nice.
So thank you.
All right, everyone. Paul, thanks for your time this week. Just as to wrap up, so I've been thinking about why more people don't make great money in crypto, and a lot of it is their emotions get in the way, and they don't hold in. Really, the time that you buy is during the greater bear market, and you're just dollar cost averaging. In the meantime, it leads to a lot of frustration, like, oh my gosh, what if this never happens? What if this doesn't happen? And you're not just buying anything in that greater bear market. You're looking for projects that have a product market fit for what it is that they're doing. Something that will be really useful in the future, because there are some things that blockchain combined with cryptographic encryption unlock the internet to be able to do. So you're taking some guesses as to what will be good product market fit, and you're taking some guesses on their survivability from the bear market into the bull market. Because if ultimately they could have the best idea in the world, but if they don't survive until the bull market, well, then your capital investment is often lost. Meld is a perfect example of that. What they were doing was really cool, and I think advanced in the DeFi space, and they ran out of money and had to close their doors. And that's just early stage business investment. So this is why diversification combined with risky, research investment, I think leads to the very best results when crypto goes crazy. And we're not at that point that crypto goes crazy yet. Now, Bitcoin has been going a little bit crazy. When it goes a lot more crazy, that's when the money starts cascading into the rest of the crypto space. And that's what I call when the rains come. But what I've realized is a lot of people don't have the patience to wait for that. A lot of people, they just can't do that. They don't have the patience. They don't have the intestinal fortitude. They don't have the tenacity to wait it out. And so this probably isn't for them, because if you end up selling before that period, well, your losses can be pretty big. If you can wait till that period and you're buying wealth research coins where the odds are stacked in your favor and you diversify, the gains can be life changing. And I've seen that myself. I've seen that in a lot of other people using this same strategy. And it's, in my opinion, the best strategy, which is why I followed it. Now, a lot of people have their other strategies. They're okay with a 10x gain over a 4-year period, and they just buy Bitcoin or they buy some other higher all caps. That's great for them, and it aligns with what their goals is. I wanted 40x, 100x, 200x potential return. So that's where the lower cap altcoin gems make more sense, but you have to diversify across several. So we'll see ultimately which ones survive. Will Bumper survive? My guess is I'm leaning towards yes, but it might be a 50-50 at this point. Will OMI survive? I'd give it a 95% chance that OMI survives into the coming bull market, at which point it goes crazy. Some of the other ones, you just don't know. That's why you're taking risk, and that's why there's such high rewards for when you get it right. Thanks, everyone. Penguin says, well, if EV is getting interoperability with other platforms, what use has OMI? So OMI still will have some use. That doesn't diminish OMI's use case at all. But I think sometimes people overestimate the importance of the specific use case of the token. Back in October 2021, I realized very viscerally that when the Decentraland or the metaverse narrative ran, Decentraland had a token called the Mana token, and Sandbox had a token called the Sand token. Their use cases were extremely weak, and yet their tokens did hundreds of X's of return. Why? Because it was the token associated with the project that people wanted exposure to. So even if what you're saying, it diminished OMI's use case, which I don't see how it does, but even if it did, my opinion wouldn't really matter much. Thanks, everyone. We will see you all soon, and enjoy the wrap. You know what this wrap is all about. Just a fun way to reinforce the principles that make all the difference over a greater time period in crypto. Thanks.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road could soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow would be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the games. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Made the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.